with Mahek from Guided Within. She's going to be talking to us about the full moon and the new moon and how manifesting works for business owners and kind of dive into all of that as she is the expert on all of it. So I'm really excited to introduce you to her and hear what she has to say and bring all this information to everyone.
Yeah, so excited to be here today.
Yes. So you have the business Guided Within. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that, like what you do with that business, how you started it?
Yeah, so I've always been really passionate about spirituality and personal development, going through sort of my own personal journey and sort of spiritual awakening back in January 2020 was kind of when it all started. And through that whole sort of personal transformation and becoming really passionate about it, I knew that I wanted to share things that have helped me on my journey. And something that's helped me so much has always been journaling and self-reflection. And this was even prior to sort of going through this transformation. It was just a tool that I always used in reflecting and taking courageous steps throughout my journey. And so when the idea for the Moon Journal came to be, I knew that I wanted it to be under this umbrella of a brand that not only offered the Moon Journal, but just tools that help you connect to your like intuition, to the guidance that's within. And I know that from my own experiences too, because as business owners, prior to this, I had a business for 3 years as a web designer, and oftentimes as a business owner, you're doing wearing so many hats and you're doing so many things and you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, and a lot of times you can really outsource like your own self-confidence, and you can outsource taking decisions in your business and things like that. And through that experience, I really realized and learned that although there are so many great teachers and people out to learn from, the best person to guide you and your specific business is you, because you have the vision. So you will also have the path laid out for you. And so creating that self-trust was really monumental for me. And so that's why I wanted it to encapsulate that sort of teaching of we can connect to ourselves and just take the very next step that we're meant to take, and that will lead us to taking the path, versus when you sort of learn from others and you might start to copy their path and realize that it doesn't really work, because you are a very unique person, your vision is very unique, and the way that you're meant to create that vision is unique to you.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, I think, as a business owner and meeting so many women, like, especially in the community, like, it's so cool to see how everyone has their individual journey and what influences that and how do they deal with the things that are difficult, or, coming up with goals and manifesting, like we're going to talk about. Like, not everybody uses the term, but I think everybody in their own way does that form, whether they realize it or not. They do have a way of making those things become a reality.
Yeah.
And I've always loved all the spiritual things. And that's why I'm really excited to kind of dive into more of that and the questions that I have, and I'm sure that other people have, about how that all works together. So if I jump around a little bit, I apologize.
You're good.
That's just how it works in my head. But like, why the moon? Like, why did you choose the moon, the new moon and the full moon for like this journal specifically? Like, what made you think that?
Yeah, so it's funny. I've had a personal, I feel like, obsession with the moon since I was a little girl. I remember like looking out, sitting in the back seat, looking out the window, and feeling like the moon was following me home when we would be coming back from Friday prayer. And in the religious community that I grew up in, it's a very small community, but we had a very specific ceremony on the nights of new moons. And in it, we learned that the significance of new moons was sort of like a reset. It was giving you a time to really think about what your intentions were and what energy you want to sort of bring forward for the next month. And so there's so many cultures and traditions that use the lunar calendar and understand that a lot of our internal timing aligns with the lunar cycle. Then as I grew and, sort of went forward in my journey, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I really started getting a little bit into astrology. And then again, relearned the significance of new moons and full moons, but this time from the astrological perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so that added a deeper meaning and layer for me. So I remember I was in this very sort of long, deep course, this astrology course. And one day the teacher used the word moon journaling. And she was just talking about the different phases of the moon. There's the new moon, then it waxes and the moon gets bigger, and you have the quarter moon phase and all of these things, and full moon and all this stuff. And I was like, wait, this is so cool. And just hearing those words, moon journaling, I knew I had to begin, because I said, like, I love journaling. But I wanted to only do it on new moons and full moons, because I knew that those points were the turning points and sort of like where there's peak energy happening. And where new moons are a time of planting seeds, setting intentions, deciding the goals and what you want to create, and taking all of those actions, full moons are a time of the opposite. So whether you're manifesting or you're bringing your goals into reality, whatever you call it, if you were already an energetic match to it, you would have it. At least that's what you think, and what we know to be true from an energetic perspective. But if you don't have it in your reality, it's because there's something within you that is subconsciously blocking it. And full moons sort of give you that time to release those blocks. When that moon is 100% illuminated, when it's full in the sky, it's not only shining a light in the sky, but it's also shining a light in our lives. And a lot of times we'll notice, if we become really aware of it, knowing and having this knowledge, that you might be triggered about certain things around that time, and you might come across certain obstacles and things like that. So basically it's shining a light on where you might have blocks and gaps and things like that. And by bringing that to your awareness, by journaling on those things, you can really bring more awareness to it, which allows you to make new choices. And when you have awareness, you can choose new choices, and those new choices lead to new outcomes. So it is still very much, I think, action based. So this is where I feel like a lot of manifestation sort of gets a bad rep, because you think, oh, let me just like write it and script it and it all comes to me. But that's not really how it works. We also have to sort of like take that action. We also have to release the blocks that are in our way. So that new moon and full moon sort of dichotomy, that yin and yang energy, gives you the opportunity to do those things while aligning with sort of the cosmic astrological timing as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of information that I
Yeah.
didn't even know. And that's why it's so cool to have these conversations, because I had so many questions going through. It's like, oh, that's neat, I want to ask this. And now I'm gonna have to go back over and like write down and like look up these things. But I find it so fascinating. I love the whole process of it. So obviously like the spirituality behind it as well, but it doesn't have to be. I think some people kind of are tentative about having those conversations because they think you have to be super spiritual to embrace like that kind of thinking, or to understand how like you even said, like the science behind it like works. And that's why I think having these conversations helps, because it lets people understand it a little bit better, and it makes it more approachable.
Yeah.
But one of the questions I had is like, what is one of the most interesting things that has happened to you like during like a new moon or a full moon? Something that you were just like, wow, this is crazy. This is alignment. This is insane.
So I'll give an example for each one. I've been moon journaling now for 3.5 years. So it's really great to sort of go through the journal and see the things that I was wanting and planting and writing and feeling all those years ago. And also the life that I'm living now. Sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, we're always like so focused on the next goal and the next thing that we want to create, that we don't realize that the life that we're living now is a manifestation, a dream that you had written back then.
Yeah.
But writing that and seeing that is so crazy. I used to say like and dream about having my own office and living in a city that had palm trees. I'm from Chicago, right? Oh. And so, even this place that I found, I would just write, like, I live in this place, it's on the ground floor. I look outside and I feel the sun, and I have this office and it has so much natural light and all of these things. And then you sort of forget, because you're so caught up in life and whatnot. But I was looking back at my reflections and I wrote, wait, exactly the apartment that I wanted, exactly the home that I wanted. I wrote that and I'm living it now. I had written that and I was really obsessed with it for a while. And I was holding very tight to that vision, and it wasn't coming in. So then, sometimes you just kind of let it go and you're like, well, whatever, right? But I think that's sort of when you allow magic to happen, because then sort of life rearranged itself, and here I am. So I feel like that's sort of, I love seeing that side of new moon. So that's my new moon story. And I think with full moons, even as someone who's been like journaling for a decade and moon journaling for like 3.5 years, sometimes I'm like, is there anything that's going to come up? Do I have any more blocks? Like, is there anything more? I think I already know what's going to, like what's in my life and like what are the things that I'm dealing with. But being forced like to sit down and reflect and think about, because, I've really explained the energy of new moons and the energy of full moons, but how they impact each one of us is a little bit differently. There's a different area of our life that is being activated by that new or full moon. And so when you take it a step further and you make it a little bit more personal to you, it makes you reflect on things you might not normally reflect on. Because the astrological system, that sort of framework, it divides your life into 12 areas. And so a lot of those areas you might think about often: your relationships, your friendships, money, and career. But then there are also other areas of life that you might not really think about, which is like your family patterns and some of those relationships, or your connection to creativity and expression and how you communicate. And it makes you think about things that you normally wouldn't. And so I really love that part, because even now when I sit down and I'm forced to reflect on certain things, I'm like so surprised by what comes out. And because of that, like I'm constantly growing, constantly learning, constantly evolving. And so I just love that process of it.
Yeah. I mean, and I love the idea of like journaling and, like you said, like being able to look back and see like something that you dreamed about, in the past has now come to fruition.
Yeah.
I think like part of that is like a psychological driver that you see these things and it kind of helps you like reach for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it creates a lot of self-belief too.
Yeah.
And confidence of like, well, I've done it. I've done it before. I've done it in these ways. I have proof. I have evidence that I can do things that I set my heart and mind to, so I can do it again. Because sometimes when we're on that journey and we're, stumbling and we're going through the failures, we can sort of lose sight of it and forget that we've done it before. We have the power to do it, and to just have a little bit of patience and perspective. And so I think that this process allows you to do that too. And just having that archive is really nice, because it helps create that self-belief and confidence.
Definitely. Now, taking a step back so to help me understand it a little better.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between like the new moon and full moon when it comes to like manifestation? Is there a difference? Do you manifest the same way? Like how are those different?
So I would think about new moons as a time to manifest.
Okay.
It's a time to call in what you want. It's a time to call in what you want. And full moons are a time to release. They're a time to release what's not in alignment. So in order for things that you want to come in, there has to be space for it. It's the law of vacuum. So in order for something to come in, there has to be space. So that full moon gives you a time to release so that you can make space for it.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Super easy.
Yeah. So, and then let's talk a little bit about the journal. Like how could a business owner specifically like use that as a tool to move themselves forward in business and towards their goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what I said, we have that full moon and new moon, right? Mm-hmm. And then we can take it a step further by aligning to the timing of our life. So that is where your sort of personal birth chart comes into play, and where your rising sign comes into play. So depending on your rising sign, that sort of lays out the meaning of what every new moon and full moon is going to mean for you. And in that 12-month period, there is periods of time where your business is what is the forefront of things, when your money houses are at the forefront of things. And so what I like to do is align my manifestations with those things and also launches with those things. So in where I explained the significance of new moons and full moons, new moons are a time to plant those seeds, and full moons are a time to release. Full moons are at also, and I didn't mention this part, but full moons are also a time to celebrate everything that's happened. It's also a time when things reach their culmination point. So really, it's a really good time to put things out in the world. And so when you're sort of timing things and you're looking at like, okay, I've got this project that I want to launch in the world, a full moon that's happening in your 10th house, in your business and career house, that's usually a lot. You'll notice a pattern where that's usually a time of month or a time period where you're getting a lot of attention. People are just noticing you. There's a lot of buzz around you. Maybe you're getting a lot of opportunities. So you might want to launch your new product, your new idea around that time. Then there is an area of your life that represents community and friendships and networking. So maybe if there is an idea or a thing that you're launching that has more to do with communication and people, maybe like an event that you're doing, that would be a good time to sort of time it with that full moon. Because again, you're getting all of that supportive energy from the universe. So that's where I think that it can really help business owners by knowing some of this information, and by working with that timing, you can start to align what you're working on with those things. And it's funny because sometimes when you're also just intuitive, you might be doing those things naturally and not know it. And then you'll look back, because I've done that, and I'm like, wait, I did that then?
Like validation.
It's validation, right? So it's great because you can see it in both of those aspects, like, you know, from the past and then as you're planning in the future.
So we have the journal here. We brought it out, and we're gonna have Mahek walk us through some of the aspects of it and how to use it. And so, is this something that you can use even if you really don't understand? Like, I don't really know much about the houses yet, and all that. Like, you want to explain?
Yeah. So anyone who wants to get started with moon journaling, you don't need to have any prior knowledge. You can literally just grab this journal and it explains everything. At the beginning of this journal, it talks about what I went through in terms of what new moons are all about and what full moons are all about, and how the journal is sort of set up already within that framework. So for new moons, there is already a specific framework that it uses, and it's just a 2-page spread. So on a new moon, you can just easily fill this out, and then on full moons, you can easily fill out the full moon part of it. Now, if you wanted to take it a step further and use your rising sign and use those themes, you can do that as well. The beginning of the journal explains all of that and how to get the themes.
There's so much detail in this journal.
So it explains everything, and it does. I don't think it's too much of it, because I think it's only like the first 40 pages that walks you through of it. There's also some inspirational stuff in here too, if you want like other new moon rituals to do. People like to, you know, take it a step further and make that, you know, ritual something fun. Because the journaling can take, you know, 10 minutes to 20 minutes. Yeah. But if you wanted to like spend an hour on a new moon and just really, you know, create a little ritual for yourself, a little ceremony for yourself, a little whatever, a practice for yourself, everything that you'd need to know is already in here, which is really great. And the way that the journal works is that it uses a 2-year system. So at the beginning of the journal, you sort of sit and you think about, what is that life that I want to create? What does that look like 2 years from now? Because it practically, although I'm spiritual, I am also very practical. And things have to make sense to me on a practical level. And whatever we want to create, whatever we want to manifest, things take time. And so to think that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to manifest, and then 4 months from now I'm going to be living my dream life, like, it doesn't always work out like that, right? You can some things may come to fruition, but when you're really creating something out of nothing, it takes time. So within that 2-year system, you decide and you write down your manifestations, your vision for the next 2 years. then this journal has enough entries to last you for those 2 years. So on new moons, you are planting seeds and you're writing down your intentions and your goals, but you are also writing down your commitments. What are the actions that you're going to take in the 3D world, in reality, because you do have to do that part. And so what are those commitments? And then there's also sort of like a built-in accountability in here, because the next time that you sit down to journal, you're checking back in on the commitments that you made and whether you took those actions, whether you didn't, what went well, what didn't go well, so that it kind of keeps you accountable to those things as well. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like, I love that, like, you don't have to know a lot about it to get started. So
Yeah.
it's very approachable.
Yeah.
The cover, I don't know if people can see this, but like, it is a beautiful, like, she didn't just print this off of Canva. No shade to anyone who does the Canva projects, because I love, those can be very creative too. But this is like legit, like there's gold on the edges of the pages. What is this material? It's like
linen.
A linen.
It's a linen hardcover. And then on the spine, there's this hand-drawn, it's hand-drawn lilies. Lilies represent new beginnings. So this is sort of like a new beginning in whatever journey, endeavor, vision that you want to create. So there's just, it's just meant to be, a little magical, a little sweet, so that you feel really good writing in it.
I mean, this really truly is like a labor of love, because
Yeah.
From all the information that you put in here to the very intentional and thoughtful design, and like, where did you even choose like these flowers? Did you?
So I worked with my friend's daughter. She's an artist, and we worked together to sort of, come up with that. She drew it all herself, and I just wanted every part of it to be very intentional and like hand created. Like every part of this, it took me a year to bring it into life, and a lot of sampling and back and forth. So if you look at the earlier versions of this, you'll be like, whoa, you came far.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I am proud of how it looks as well as how it works.
No, and I love that you have like quotes like, you don't need permission, you just need a deep breath and a little courage.
And a little courage.
Oh, this is really beautiful. And I think it's something that's very much needed, especially, I mean, not just women business owners, but I think in particular, like, that resonates with me, because, we get so inundated by all the decisions we have to make and all the work stuff that we need to do. We forget that this is a very important part of it. Taking time to breathe life into our dreams and to cherish and treasure our dreams, and that whole process of getting there, I think is important, especially when you need to, and I speak for myself, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
I think this allows you to also just slow down and, kind of move with intention.
Yeah.
So I think this is a beautiful thing for people in general, but I think like this is something that business owners can absolutely utilize.
Yeah.
And did we talk about like how this like came into your brain? Like, what made you decide you're like, I'm gonna make a moon journal? Like, for other people, not like.
Yeah. So, when I started that practice 3.5 years ago, I just took a blank journal and I just started writing every new moon and full moon. And over the years, every time I would like walk into like a little yoga shop or like little metaphysical store or crystal shop or whatever, I would look like on the shelves to see if there was anything like this, so that I could just like buy it, and like it could be something I could just easily fill out. Nothing existed. Of course, I scoured the internet and TikTok. Literally nothing existed. And I was like, I'm so shocked and so surprised. And I never really thought about making it. Like, it kind of came in as like a half-baked thought, but not even a full thought. But I was obsessed with it, and I wanted to talk about it and share it with everyone and their mom. So I had a Substack for a year where I was doing like new moon and full moon breakdowns and readings, and I was going on Instagram Live every new moon and full moon and doing oracle readings and talking about the energy behind that specific new moon, that full moon. And then actually last year, it was like a Taurus new moon, and I decided to have like a circle at my house. So I invited a small group of women and led them through a bunch of different activities. We did breath work. We did this like podcast interview, future visioning thing. And then we did a bunch of journal prompts, of course, and all of that was based off of, the framework that I was working with. And when it just went so well, and when everyone went home, I was in bed and I had pulled my journal to, fill it all out in the journal. And I was like, you know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one who's meant to create this. I clearly know so much and have personally used this framework for over 3 years now. I was a designer for 3 years, so I know professional grade design. Maybe it's meant to be me. And so then I kind of went through that journey now and writing it and creating it and bringing it to life, because I was just like, I feel like it has to exist in the world. I'm shocked that it doesn't, but that means that I get to bring it. And I just felt also really like lucky and grateful that it gets to be me that brings this into the world.
I love that. You're the perfect person to do it too. I love how passionate you are, and it just shows in your excitement. So if you could work with anybody, collaborate with somebody, a business, maybe a public figure or somebody, who would be your dream person or business to collaborate with to bring this just to the masses?
To the masses?
Or just to really that next level.
I would love to collaborate with an astrologer. I don't see myself as an astrologer or anything at all, but I would love to work with an astrologer who believes in the vision and sees the value in this. And because I think that they would bring a specific flavor and a specific creativity to this too, that could, help this reach and get into the hands of people that would really love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then aside from the journal, what should people come to you for if they need, because I know you do a lot of different things, but if they want to do work more with you, work with you, how can they get in contact with you? What can they do with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at It's Mahek Lakhani, ITSMAHEKLAKHANI. That's my personal Instagram, or you can follow the Guided Within Instagram, which is at I Am Guided Within. And I love hosting, of course, any new moon and full moon sort of workshops and things like that. So anything in person where we're using the framework and we're doing fun rituals. Absolutely love doing that. I'm also a meditation teacher and breathwork facilitator. And so I love bringing that in as part of the workshops. And that's
so let's make all these celebrations happen.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your journey and for this beautiful journal. Yeah. And I'm so excited to see what happens next with it and watch as your business grows.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.